Hey everybody. Looks like we got Jay backstage and we got Darren backstage. I'm gonna add them here in just a second. Um, I do have the link in the chat for in case anybody else wants to join in live. Texas, I see you're in the chat. If you're interested in joining, you can audio only. I know you don't have a webcam. And as I always say, that's not a requirement to be on camera. So if somebody feels uncomfortable being on the camera, they can always be audio only. Um, and I did want to make an announcement about the next watch along that I'll be doing, which will be next Saturday. I wanted to do it a little bit before Thanksgiving. And it's going to be Blood Rage. Not the Yoo-Hoo Killer Blood Rage, but the one about the twins, Terry and Todd, who one of them is a killer. So um, everybody can look forward to that. That one will more than likely be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Saturday. Um, oh, so Texas, you weren't able to get a copy of the movie. Oh, I'm sorry I was not able to uh, acquire a link to give to anybody. I'm actually using Steve's Blu-ray Arrow copy, and I've got my Blu-ray, my portable or external Blu-ray drive hooked up, and then had to get some free software that enabled me to play this Blu-ray through my computer. So that's how I'm going to be watching it. Um, but I hope you still are able to have a good time, Texas, like listening to us talk about the movie. We'll try to be, or I can be a little bit more descriptive, maybe, and maybe you'll know it like what part of the movie we're at. I can't remember if you said that you had seen Cruising before, because if you haven't seen it, as opposed to you have seen it at least once, that'll make a big difference. Um, so the Blood Rage watch along, that's the big announcement I've got for right now. But I'm going to go ahead uh, before Jay and Darren get antsy and go away. I'm going to go ahead and add them to the stream. So let me add Jay. Hey, Jay, it's nice to finally see what you look like.
Hello. How goes it?
It's pretty good here. Um, Let me go ahead and add Darren. Hey, Darren, are you feeling better?
Yeah, I had a bit of a nap, so it
Okay,
got over my headache a little bit.
that's good. That's good. Um, I might give it a few minutes to like, in case I'm only seeing like two people that is watching right now. So that I don't think that includes us. So there's us three and then Texas in the chat and at least one other person that evidently must not be chatting, but they're watching, which is also not a requirement. I don't require people to chat in there. It just sometimes helps me get a gauge on who I've got in here um, on any particular night. But um, Jay, is have you been doing anything that maybe you would like to promote or anything, or just
No.
nothing you've watched that you want to talk about?
Actually, yes. Have any of you seen Barbarian?
I have.
I've not seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but
No,
I watched it
don't worry
last.
about spoilers.
Oh,
I'm not bothered about spoilers.
it's one of those movies that's all about spoilers. So, but
Oh, okay.
Dana, what did you have thoughts about this movie?
Well, I didn't hate it. I think it was maybe it was John that was asking about it last night during the prom night watch along we were doing, and I said I didn't hate it, but I don't know. It started out like it was intriguing to me, like the setup, I guess, and then it seemed like about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, okay. And then by the time it got to the end, I was kind of like, I don't know. Again, I don't hate it, but I don't know. It seemed like to me during that last quarter, I guess, it just completely fell apart as a movie. But I've heard some people really like it.
Yeah, I think I hated it because it started out so good, and then I had so much goodwill towards it because it had a lot of good filmmaking, and it kind of built tension, and I was having fun with it. And then it just kind of careened off that cliff into what are you doing?
Yeah, that was kind of like I was just like confused because I didn't really get what the filmmakers were trying to do with
Y-
this,
y-
what they were trying to accomplish.
Well, I have some ideas, but I think that would be a big discussion.
Well, maybe we should just have like figure out, when the most people have seen it, and then we can just have a barbarian discussion on here.
Please, because I was just like, oh, I need to talk to someone about this. This is making me go. Here's the Jackie Chan JPEG going
Oh,
crazy.
yes.
I've heard that a lot though with Barbarian. Like the first act is supposed to be amazing or really good, and then he sort of peters off there and doesn't, get any better. But a lot of people have been saying that.
Now, Texas says that he's seen it. He says it's $2.99 on YouTube to rent, so I might as well get it and join. Oh, he's talking about cruising. So he says he can rent it on YouTube for $2.99, so I might as well get it and join the fun. Okay, yeah, that's fun.
Get on you, innit? I thought there would have. I'm disappointed because I thought there would have been a few more in.
Well, yeah, I actually that was what I was expecting, this thing to light up like a Christmas tree. There'd be, all these people in the chat and stuff, because when people found out I was doing a cruising watch along, they were like, "Oh, cruising," and it just seemed like there was a lot of interest in it. But I don't know. I that's why I like to give it a few more minutes. I'm getting kind of I'm going to go ahead and add Texas here. He will be audio only because he doesn't have a webcam. So, hey, Texas.
Hey there.
So, there's going to be, unless somebody else joins us, I got room for more people. But if it's just us four and whoever's kind of lurking, I hate to say lurking because that sounds like it's got bad connotations, but I'm not against lurking. If you just want to kind of hang back and watch and kind of listen to what we're saying, and you have your own copy of cruising and want to watch along, that's fine.
Like
I'm just going to warn you guys, I did a copious amounts of cocaine before this, so
Oh, goodness. Oh, Texas will be bouncing off the walls or something.
Texas, what color bandanas do you have, since we can't see?
Let's see. I have mauve, olive green, like puke pink, and then I have one of those leather gimp masks.
Nice. I'm gonna have to go refer to the chart to see what those mean.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what. I was running through the movie to make sure it played okay, and I saw the scene with the yellow bandana or the yellow handkerchief, and I just laughed because the one guy says, and we'll talk about more when we get into it, but the one guy says, if you just like to watch, get rid of that handkerchief, it's because
it's hard to believe that was actually a thing as well, back in the late 70s. Just by the color of the handkerchief alone, you can tell what they wanted to do. It's crazy.
Yeah, just go around and look for guys with handkerchiefs in their pocket and see what color it is.
Depending on what you wanted.
Well, I mean, without apps, how are you going to do that? I mean,
exactly, yeah.
I think I'm gonna give it until I don't know 6:15, and then we'll go ahead and make sure everybody's all queued up and ready to go. Um, and we might have other people, join us in the middle of it because sometimes people forget that somebody's doing a watch along, and then they're like, "Oh, damn, somebody's doing a watch along." So or they're just doing a live stream. I'm gonna go get on there. But I was gonna say I'm kind of worried about Dirk. I mean, like, I haven't, like, Darren. Have you heard from him at all?
No, I haven't heard nothing. I take it Steve didn't get a message back then.
Nope.
He had a cast last night, I think, or it was the night before. I think it was Friday, actually.
But
Yeah, I seen him on a stream.
Usually he pops in and out of my live streams when I have them, and I haven't even seen him drop by to say hey. I haven't gotten any like Facebook messages from him or anything like that. Oh, John's here. John says I'm listening some while driving home from McKay, so I'm lurking, huh? That's okay, John. You can lurk. If you're driving home from somewhere, you kind of have to lurk. It's a little bit different when you do that. Steve always used to call into the Dead Pit show when he was like, I guess he'd be driving home from work or something in the early days, and he would call in to the show, but they'd be like, well, what are you doing, Steve? And he'd be like, driving home from work, or he had stopped at a restaurant or something. He was coming back home with something to eat. And oh yeah, I thought John loved Barbarian, or liked it at least. He said, I love Barbarian, but I agree there's no real deep message. It's just a batshit story. Okay, so I guess so are you guys like queued up and ready to go with your whatever you've chosen to watch it on? Okay. So I've got, of course, I'm using the Arrow Blu-ray, and I've got it just at the black screen right before it goes to that kind of black and white sort of grainy shot of the guy standing outside the wolf's den. So if you guys are about at that spot, or even at the spot where it's got the guy standing out there, I think that'll be fine. So Texas, did you go ahead and rent it?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I figured it might have been on Arrow, but I just remembered that, and I thought, to hell with it, doesn't matter.
This is the only one I have not been able to get some sort of, free link for. Steve said, you can rent it for like $3 or something. And I said, yeah, but this gal's currently without a job, so maybe I shouldn't be like renting it for even $3. I should be saving every penny I've got right now. So, but I was like, well, you got a copy, Steve. I said, I'll just hook up this Blu-ray drive and just do it that way. So I guess if everybody is ready to go, I will do the 3, 2, 1, and then we'll all press play. So 3, 2, 1, press play. There we go.
Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Got that on the... I think the Arrow release is the way to go with this film. So I got the old Region 1 release, and it's good. There's some good extras on it and all, but the Arrow release is in the UK. I don't believe you got one in the US. I think it's UK only.
I didn't think so.
Actually, I think there is a US Blu-ray.
Is there?
Oh,
okay.
right, yeah. It must be the same then. Must be exactly the same.
Now, the title, William Friedkin's Cruising, is that saying it's his movie, or is it saying he's out cruising?
Right.
I think it's really trying to say it's his movie, but I guess you could take it either way.
He's out there looking for David Gordon Green.
There's been quite a few movies that start off with the Hudson River, you know, because Zombie 2 did that as well, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Dana wants to go into it, but this, I think everyone knows, but this movie was inspired by the killer who was an actor in The Exorcist in the hospital scene.
Yep.
And he went on, he was like killing, you know, around about that time and a bit later.
It's also partially based on a book, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard something about that.
But it's like Paul Bateson as well was the guy's name, and I know Friedkin was really, you know, taken aback when he realised he was a serial killer, and he got in contact with him and said, you know, I wouldn't mind making a film about it. And so I would imagine, yeah, it would have been a mixture of the book and, you know, his experience with that guy.
Yeah, I read on the book a bit, and it said that there were basically 3 points of view: the killer, the cop, and the police chief.
Right, yeah. It's quite a difficult film to follow as well, because you're not sure, you know, I'm sure we'll get into it as it goes, but you're not really sure who the killer is, you know, at any time in the film, really. And, you know, it throws you a few curveballs on that.
And speaking of sleaze, Joe Spinell just showed up.
Well,
Yeah.
making a New York City movie in the 70s or early 80s. He's the man.
Mm-hmm.
And just look at the backdrop to the film, you know, it's all real and it's like 1970s New York. It just captures everything so well. That blonde guy is played the killer in 10 to Midnight. He's been in a few other things.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
The Naked Killer.
Yep.
That's another good film. I recommend.
Oh, that's an excellent film. I finally was able to get that on DVD a few years ago.
I was lucky enough to see that in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I would love to have seen that in the theater.
The crowd did not know what to make of it. They were just like, what?
Spinell always plays this sleazy character, doesn't he? He plays it so well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, he may have hung around with sleazy people, but I don't think he was actually that sleazy in real life. He might have been a little rough around the edges and stuff, but. And I'm just willing to bet that there were a ton of cops, not just in New York City, but just other big cities that were just as sleazy as these guys are portrayed on here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, back then, you know, it was all mob owned, a lot of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so if they weren't being killed by a serial killer, they were probably, you know, the mob was probably out to get them for, you know, drug deals or whatever, you know.
I think with this nightclub as well. Yeah, with this nightclub, I think Friedkin and like the cameraman or someone went there for like a week, and they sort of went undercover, and they said it was an experience that they'll never, you know, never ever see again.
This I'm not against this lifestyle. If this is your thing, if this is what you want to do, I think that's cool. But this, I would scare the shit out of me. I would not want to be in the middle of this.
I mean, what could go wrong?
Right.
Well, I lived in
kind
San Francisco for 15 years, and I had a couple of bosses that were gay, and I had gay friends. And one night it was my birthday, and a bunch of us went to like my favorite Mexican restaurant. So afterwards, we're all like, "Well, where do you want to? What do you want to do? You guys want to go somewhere?" And this one friend of mine, he and his partner, he goes, the Eagles down the street, and I'm like, no. And I said, we can go, to a couple of other places, but I said, I'm not going to a leather bar, and stuff.
Yeah, it's if it's somebody's lifestyle, their scene, that's cool. It's just not my thing.
It's like we had, like over here in the UK, we've had like gay bars. We got gay bars now, but never anything like this.
No,
Not even back in the 70s.
There's gay bars in Louisville, but nothing like that. I don't think there's any leather bars anywhere.
I lived in Denver, and there was a couple around where I worked, and I worked in the early hours, and it was just on the corner. You just drive by and see the door. It's like, oh, that's what's going on there.
And I know, we're not talking about movies with Tom Hanks like Big, but I think at the beginning of Big, after he's gotten big, when he has to go hide out in New York City, he's in the St. James Hotel. So I'm wondering he was supposed to be in the same hotel that takes place here.
Have any of you seen the new American Horror Story yet?
I've seen clips of it. Steve was watching it, and he says it's cruising, Dana. He says it's American Horror Story cruising, and the clips I saw, I would have to agree with him.
Well, it is kind of, but I mean, there's several other stories attached to it, though.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, I think it's really good. I was surprised at how good it was, because I really wasn't expecting anything from like the last American Horror Stories, the last season of that. I thought that was just horrible.
What season is that on now? I tapped out after the first.
Gosh, I can't remember what.
I want to say it's maybe 11 or 12, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. But now you've said that, and what Dana said as well with Steve, I'm kind of interested in watching that now.
Mm-hmm.
Might be well worth a watch. But this scene here as well is just sleaze.
And you
can see why this
uncomfortable. Oh, I was just going to say they're very uncomfortable scenes. I would think it would be even uncomfortable in some respects for a homosexual man to watch this stuff.
Well, back then there was a lot of protests by the gays, but now I guess apparently they like it a lot more than when it came out. That's at least what I've read and stuff.
Oh yeah, they were picketing and everything, weren't they?
Yeah.
They stopped filming. They were shouting. There's a scene a bit later on in the cafe with Don Scardino and Al Pacino, and he said the noise was so bad they had to literally be ushered out, into this car, because there was so many people outside protesting.
Yeah, my man Don Scardino is going to be showing up here a little bit. I love that guy.
Has anyone seen? Well, I know Dana's seen Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We were talking about that last night, how, or I brought it up. I said there's similar dark elements in both movies, just a different setup, pretty much. But that's a
I
very
did see that it's on YouTube as well. It was like 2 hours 9 minutes. On I don't know, is it that long, Dana?
yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
about
'cause-
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that'll probably never get a probable release on disc because of the music clearances and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a bootlegger I know, so if
Well,
anybody's interested, and
the
it's not
copy
me.
I watched was pretty gritty. You know, I mean, you could watch it, but it was, obviously not a top of the line print.
It's always the magic antenna.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
He did, really? He made you do that? I don't know about that.
and if you watch this for the first time as well, you will get a bit confused because there's so many different killers and so many things happening that it takes 2 or 3 times to really take it in.
I mean, why didn't he use the safe word? What's the problem?
One of the interesting things too is this LA punk band, the Germs. They got hired to do some of the music, and the producer Jack Nietzsche, he produced like a series of songs, and then I guess he thought that they weren't. I don't know if it was Friedkin or him, that they didn't fit in too much into what he was trying to get across, so they only, I think, used like one or something. Kind of ridiculous because I think they recorded at least 3 or 4 for the soundtrack, and the soundtrack I think might have featured all of them, but they only, I think, featured one in the film or something like that.
I was just, it's a weird thought to have while we're watching this movie, but I'm just thinking about how probably mortified my mom would be to watch something like this. I have not ever heard her or my dad, either one, talk about this movie. I doubt they even know it exists.
I think even now this would shock a lot of people, to be honest. Just that everything really about it. And by the title as well, Cruising, you don't really know what you're going to get. Because a lot of people have said to me, we skipped the movie for so long because we just didn't know, it don't sound like a horror film. It doesn't sound like anything,
It sounds weird to say, but Steve is the one that introduced me to this movie. I mean, I had watched The Exorcist, of course, and a couple other Friedkin things, but when Steve mentioned Cruising, it's just like you said, Darren. I was confused. I was like, Cruising? I was like, what is that? And Steve was kind of like, he had this mischievous smile on his face. He said, you'll see. Let's just watch it, And I was like, oh, okay. It didn't take too long before I figured out what exactly was going on with this movie.
It's only in the last few years or so, like 4 or 5 years, that people have really come onto the film, really. I remember seeing it back in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s. But then it was like kind of unheard of. Not many people knew about it, or certainly didn't talk about it. But in later years, it's finally getting its just rewards, I think. Because I think everyone needs to see it at least once, no matter what your sexual orientation is.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked in
Because
the video store, this was a popular rental among some
ah,
groups.
Right, I can imagine. Yeah.
I don't remember ever seeing it. Like, of course, I lived in a very, very small town, so this probably wouldn't have been real popular with the clientele that went to the video stores around my hometown, because I felt like at times, even though this movie's not really a horror movie, but I watched a lot of horror movies, and I felt like sometimes I was the only horror fan in town, because you would go into these places and you would say, "Hey, by the way, do you have such and such movie?" And they'd look at you like you put your clothes on sideways and went out. It's like,
Yeah.
if I'd lived in a bigger city, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal or anything. TJ just said, "By the way, how much man butt is in this?" A lot, TJ, I think. There's some right there in a picture.
And VHS, this had one of the big green Warner clamshell boxes.
Uh-huh. I always thought those were so cool. Those, like, I like the oversized boxes, but I also like those clamshell cases as well.
It would collect too much dust, though.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately. I also had, and this was the only movie I ever had on VHS that was like this. I had a copy of Hospital Massacre, or X-Rays, the other title for it, with Barbie Benton on it. And I was able to get, I guess it was an old video rental copy. And so I got it from an auction or something, but it was not only kind of in a clamshell case, but it had its own little tray, like a plastic tray, like inside it, that the VHS actually sat in. Like I said, that was the only video that I ever had that was like that.
What's that, like a big box then, is it? Or
Yeah,
because we
kind
never
of.
had that over here.
Yeah, kind of like the big boxes, only it was just like I said, I had never seen one specifically with that little plastic. It was like a little plastic black tray that the
Right.
VHS sat in.
It was a clamshell?
It was not completely a clamshell, but it on the outside it kind of looked like one. Now here's a really complicated relationship they have. Um, Al Pacino and Nancy Allen, gosh, Karen Allen, um, here. And it gets more complicated when he has to actually go undercover.
That's one hell of an assignment, though, to be asked to put yourself through. It's
But
yeah.
is Al Pacino like almost like a rookie or something? Is he trying to prove himself to the department? Is that why he takes this?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's trying to build himself up, climb the ladder, sort of thing.
See, the main reason Karen Allen was pissed at him was because he didn't join the Wanderers. You've seen that, haven't you, Dana?
Yes. Yeah.
I've never
Didn't
seen
someone say on the? Sorry, Jay.
I've never seen it. What's the joke?
Well, the joke is it's like in the early 60s, it's like a gang movie. And so there's all these different gangs. There's like a gang called the Wongs. And of course, they're all Chinese. And the main deal is, no one fucks with the Wongs. And then, but the joke basically is that, I'm trying to remember, what was the guy's name, Dana? I know his first name. It was Ken. That Oh fuck, I can't think of his last name.
Yeah, my brain is just like mush anymore.
But I mean, he has kind of the good looks of Pacino, you know, and stuff, and so that's why. So I was just saying that, you know, she's just mad because he didn't join that gang, because she's not the guy's girlfriend at first, but becomes his girlfriend later.
Sorry, Darren, as you were saying.
Yes, someone was saying last night on Dana's stream that they were gonna, or Richard Gere was in to play the Al Pacino part in this film,
yes.
and that would have been really interesting.
I think that might have been TJ that brought that up.
Yeah.
Like,
even though I love Pacino in this role, I wish we could have like the two versions, because I would love to see a Richard Gere version as well.
oh yeah. TJ says porn back in the day were in the big box with plastic trays inside the box. I refuse to tell how I know that.
Right.
Yeah, they
Hey,
were.
it's Napoleon Dynamite.
My man. There's Don Scardino. I don't care that he's playing a gay guy on here. Yeah, I'm just throwing all these homosexual magazines away here.
Those probably be worth their money now as well. Vintage magazines.
He's not recycling. So Darren, did in the UK, did porn back in the day come in the big boxes?
I don't think we had like big boxes. We just, and from what I can remember with porn back in the 80s, it was all sort of done very sleazy undercover, just people copying tapes and taking them to work and stuff. But we never really had. We obviously had, you know, sex shops where you could buy stuff legally, but a lot of the good stuff or the hardcore stuff was just you sort of take, you know, with two VCRs and give them to your mates and sort of swap them around like that. That was the main thing, really.
I didn't do that with porn, but I did that with just regular, like, horror movies and stuff. I would hook up two VCRs and copy them.
I knew about the video nasties, but I forgot that the porn also needed to be rated once they had you had to classify all the videos.
Right, yeah. And here's that scene I was on about earlier where there was a lot of people outside just shouting and everything.
Think Friedkin slapped that waitress so she spilled the coffee like that?
he poked her with a sharp object or something right when she went past. Yeah, he was known for doing stuff like that.
He used to get these results though, didn't he? Some phenomenal results by just doing stupid things, by firing guns and slapping people. And
now Cronenberg didn't do this stuff on a regular basis like Friedkin did, but I think he talked to Christopher Walken when he did the Dead Zone, and you know those scenes where Christopher Walken is seeing what could possibly happen and he's flinching and stuff, and it's like he's really in pain and stuff. A gun was shot in close proximity to him to get him to jerk and kind of wince like that. But I think that, again, was something he talked over with Cronenberg to get that effect. Cronenberg didn't just do it and then say, oh, I'm sorry. Did that bother you? Friedkin doesn't give a shit. He's going to do whatever he can to get the shot.
So I am curious what kind of music would be played in establishments like this.
yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Should say
Maybe the
circa 1980.
maybe the Village People or something like that when
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was big.
This is
She
just
almost
sort of after disco, in it, really.
Mm-hmm. Pacino acts like he's frightened of those handkerchiefs. Okay, so he's explaining some of these. It's like, okay, I'm getting out of here now. I'm not going to buy any.
Yeah. Now you've told me what they are. I'm
I'm going
gone.
to go home and think about it.
But I want to make sure I put my makeup on too.
I got to spruce up my eyebrows.
Joe Spinell comes in and goes, "Give me one of each."
Give them all to me. I'll just kind of alternate them.
This
then he
scene
says,
here was sorry, Tex.
No,
This scene
go
here
ahead.
was kind of X-rated. There's a fisting scene that's just off camera. There was numerous blowjobs being given. Obviously, Friedkin had to, conceal that in the final product. But there is like gay footage as well that was shot for this. Just turned up in
God,
some
there was
documentary.
So Friedkin says that, but they know that there's no way that they would get that past the ratings board.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it was a ploy to, try and get as much in as they could because they know they wouldn't pass the hag or sex scenes.
Yeah.
But they might include other things just to even it out a bit.
Yeah, I know directors do that with sex and violence. You give too much to compensate for what the ratings board will make you cut. But when people say that there's like 30 minutes of sex cut out, hardcore sex cut out of this movie, I'm like, there's no way that's got to be BS because that's just there's no way that would fit in the movie, or any sane producer would think that would get through the ratings board.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine it's just the odd scene, the odd like blowjob or fisting or what have you.
Yeah.
I can't see it being like 20, 30 minutes.
Like
90
seconds, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But the 30 minutes or whatever they were talking about.
And so what I was going to say was that, you'd say Spinell would buy a color of each, and then he'd say, give me that headband that says Maniac on it too.
Doesn't this look like where Frank Henenlotter records his extras?
Yeah.
He's always in some underground bar.
Oh, did you guys see that? Speaking of Henenlotter, one of the basket case releases that came out, I don't think it was the newest one. I think it was one of the older, like one of the first ones that came out. But there was like a weird little thing where Henenlotter went around to the different locations where he filmed basket case, and they ended up going to one of the places where he filmed a bar scene or something, and it was very strange. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jay? Did you see that?
Yeah, I think that's the one, and I think it was like a S&M bar.
Yeah, and it was a very bizarre, like even when he went back, it was just a very bizarre atmosphere.
Wasn't it the Hellfire Club, I think?
I think it may have been, yeah.
Well, I forgot where I read it, but there were some articles saying that even like Freddie Mercury and celebrities were going to in New York City, going to leather clubs, and it was kind of the it thing to do in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, we tend to forget how sleazy things were back then.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, completely different time. But with the Henenlotter, didn't like when they were filming Basket Case, they actually filmed some parts in a hotel, and I think the Son of Sam killer was on the loose at the time, or there was several serial killers that were
Yeah.
connected to that hotel where they, you
Mhm.
know, kill people in that hotel, which is quite freaky when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I love all the old New York films, you know, like 70s and early 80s, just to
Mm.
see what it was like. It's a time where, you know, I know it was unsafe and all that, but I'd love to have experienced it for just, you know, one day.
Yeah, just like 42nd Street. I know that would have been
Yeah, yeah.
dangerous, but just to experience that atmosphere just for one day.
I mean, I went as a kid because I lived in Connecticut, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah. Because we
It's
had
just
some parts of London was quite bad, but not from what, you know, I've heard of New York, not nowhere near.
so I remember going to the Bronx Zoo and coming home. We get on the expressway, and you would just see there was like a stairwell with a fence, and it was just all filled with garbage.
Wow. See, and I think Louisville's bad sometime, but if I went to New York City, I'd be like, I'm ready to go back to Louisville now. Because you know the worst things probably I've experienced is like, you know, homeless people coming up to you, and unfortunately there's a lot of mentally ill people that really should be being cared for, but they're not. They just end up, you know, in Louisville, they're out on the streets, they don't have anywhere to live, they have no the correct medication to take, and they're just out there alone. And I got screamed at one time by a lady who was obviously mentally ill, and I thought somebody was trying to hurt her, and I asked her if she needed some help with somebody bothering her, and she just set loose and started screaming at me, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go now. But you know, it took me a little while to get used to things in Louisville because I'm from such a small town, and I just didn't see that kind of stuff.
Oh, did they not tell you the no eye contact rule?
I got told that when I started working downtown Louisville at the main library, the guys I worked with in computer services, they say, don't ever give them any eye contact, never. That was one of the first things I got told.
So this part, yeah, it was filmed in New York, yeah, in a famous park, I believe. The same one that they used in Dario Argento's Inferno, where they kill the cats in that one scene.
Oh, okay, so this looks familiar.
Just the
There's Pacino again looking very uncomfortable. He looks uncomfortable this whole entire movie, and I would imagine he was. And then he's got their sex life is suffering too, unfortunately.
Has anybody ever seen any interviews with Pacino regarding this film? Because I haven't. I've tried looking.
Have not.
I would
No.
love to know how he thought and you know the filming and all behind the scenes.
you know when he gives interviews, this is the PR agent is like, this is on the no talk about list.
Right, yeah, especially
Do
nowadays,
not
yeah,
ask.
yeah.
He's giving her one word responses, like she said everything's ready, and he's like good, and he just gets up and comes in there.
It's like, I'm hanging out with lots of men. I can just give one word answers. It's all good.
Like these two as well got kind of good chemistry about them. Even though there's obviously no gay, you know, connotations or anything, they seem to get, you know, on screen they sort of get on really well.
Yeah, this is just obviously like two male friends, you know,
Yeah,
have
I don't.
romantic stuff going on.
Yeah, I don't think it's implied that it's romantic at all, is it? Really? That's why Central Park. That's why I couldn't think of the name.
Is it the Brambles?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Is Texas? You ever listen to Howard Stern?
Not in a long time, but yeah, back in the 90s, I used to a lot.
George Takei would talk, or Takei, he would talk about going to the Brambles in New York City. Anyone familiar
Right.
with those stories? Because they are
No,
hilarious.
I never heard
suggest you
him
look them up.
on there.
I've heard a few of the stories about the Brambles. Yeah.
It would make good cruising supplemental material.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned it before to Dana, and I'm not sure. I don't think she's seen the film, but have any of you two guys seen Windows, a film that was made at a similar time in New York City? It's basically a lesbian themed film, and that was had exactly the same trouble picketing against it. I think the woman in Rocky stars in it, Tyler. Is it Tyler Shire? And that's well worth getting. There's a good Screen Factory version of that.
So
It's
why was
definitely a
it
slasher.
Oh, it's a
I-
For
slasher.
the gay, yeah, gay themed it is, but it's lesbian themed.
I've
I
No
heard
one
of it,
need
ever
to
but I've never
watch
mentioned
seen
it
it.
though.
Oh, I highly recommend. I think Dana would love it. You know,
Steve could probably get a copy of it for me.
oh yeah, it should be easily to get hold of. This senior analysis. It's every heterosexual man's sort of nightmare. You know,
Yeah.
Have any of you seen Gaspar Noé's Irreversible?
I
No.
haven't, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, I did. It's been a while though.
Just the beginning it's in a club similar to this.
Right.
Mm.
I know a useless bit of trivia, but I know in some of these scenes, William Forsythe was actually an extra. He played
Wow.
an extra before he made it, you know, in the big time.
I'm gonna have to go through this and pause it more.
I think one of the scenes gone, but you can tell it's him back earlier on. I should have mentioned it then. But it's kind of a blink and you miss it type of thing.
Where's Lord Humongous? Just he's on the DJ table going, "I am the Ayatollah of rock and roll."
I know one big question my mom would ask me if she knew that I was doing a watch along for this and she knew what the movie was about, she'd be like, Dana, how on earth can you get on a live stream with 3 other guys and talk about this movie? That would be her big question. But I just don't I know what the subject matter is. It just, I'm just watching a movie. That's all. That's all I'm thinking about.
Where's the I Spit on Your Grave live stream?
Oh,
That sounds that would definitely be rough on the any male members that
Yeah, it
were.
would just be you alone talking. Nobody would show up.
Steve says he doesn't want to watch that movie with me anymore. I was like, "What do you don't trust me?" He said at one time, he said, after we watch this movie, you're going to have to use plastic utensils from now on. I was like, well, you think I'm going to like cut your member off or something?
Like no more knives in the bathroom.
He was like, I couldn't have any more real knives, period. But I've got a whole kitchen full of knives, so.
Do you actually think that during all this build up now to where he's, he's got this sleazy undercover sort of at night, the different height of life, do you think he sort of descends into where it might imply that he's turning gay towards the end of the film?
I think he's worried that that's what's going to happen to him, that he's worried that he's spending so much time with that culture and that lifestyle that he's going to decide that he likes it and he wants to go that way.
That's exactly what I was thinking. He's sort of fighting against it, really.
It's like straight people and kinky sex, some people enjoy that, but then they're scared. On the other hand, they're scared for anybody to find out that they do like that people, and some people might look at them differently, but as long as you're not doing anything where, and I'm not talking about like 50 Shades of Grey type of stuff. I'm just saying some people like a little kink in their sexual activity, and I don't personally see anything wrong with that if that's your thing. But some people are kind of, they just like, shh, don't let anybody know,
This is the Germ song right here that they're playing.
Okay.
You think Gigi Allen loved this movie?
I wouldn't know about that.
This guy, that guy they just showed looked like he should be on stage singing a country song.
Who is this guy? I've seen him before. I can't place him.
Yeah, he looked familiar.
So do you guys think this film actually looks bad upon gay people and is like a bad advert, for the gay community, or do you just think it's just, just another slasher film that's just happens to, include that?
Yeah, as an outsider, I don't feel that way, but I would be willing to believe that the homosexual and even the lesbian community at the time that this movie came out, there was so much hate against that lifestyle. And I think that is what caused them to be. They probably looked upon Friedkin as, oh, here's another guy that just wants to hate on our lifestyle. And so we're going to beat him to the punch. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to say, we don't like this movie. We're going to protest this movie. But me being outside of that culture, I totally don't see it as anti-gay at all.
Yeah.
Well, it's a if okay, so if there's a gay subculture, then this is a subculture of a subculture.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it doesn't really reflect poorly if people think it's not the whole culture, it's just one subset.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also curious, like when people make heavy metal movies, how much they get wrong. I'm curious how much this movie gets wrong, or how much of it gets right.
I think more of the latter. I think it gets a lot right from what I've read. I think in some ways it's almost like parts of it is almost like a documentary style because, obviously Friedkin had to live sort of like that for however long they were filming. At night they were going to all these bars and So it's, to me, it's got like kind of a documentary feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely
It just
authentic.
captures
It
that time.
comes off that way.
And at this point as well, like when you're first watching the film for the first time, you kind of like, you just don't know where it's going to go, or you know who the killer is, or anything, which is great. I love that. I've said it before, you know, don't need everything written out, you know, to us. Like we sometimes it's best if your own mind can make up, you know, parts of it.
So it looks like Don Scardino's character and his roommate here are having a lover's quarrel, I guess is what you would call it, because they're arguing just like you would see, you know, maybe a straight couple would argue. Somebody's bringing in all the money and they feel like the other person's just kind of playing around and not doing anything.
I'm having flashbacks.
The whole police element as well to this film gets a bit crazy a bit later on when we see that black guy. That's the scene. Just got it's just so outlandish, that scene.
Everybody talks about that scene too.
But apparently, what's so amazing about that scene is that it did happen. It was something that did happen. It's I find it incredible now. You know, for that, you know, it wouldn't happen nowadays, obviously. But yeah, it's kind of amazing. He's starting to really get into character now. You can tell. A little bit too much, though.
If you're going to be interrogated and abused, I would appreciate that someone would take the time to have a man in the jockstrap and a cowboy hat do it instead of just plain clothes. I mean, at least they're putting effort into it.
Oh, here's an infamous scene as well.
Oh boy.
I don't think there's any money that, you know, amount of money that would make me do what Al Pacino's doing in this film, going undercover, and I wouldn't do it for £1 million. It's so, you know, especially at that time, dangerous beyond belief, really.
You think that guy was over 40 and getting his first prostate check?
So I'm taking this up to this point now because we start to see another guy. So is there like 2 killers? There's at least 2 killers up until now.
Yeah, Pacino's getting way too into this here at this point.
Yeah, he's kind of doing this scene a little bit too well. I'd love to like actually play back this dance to him now and see what he actually thinks. So, yeah.
And the way Friedkin just keeps flashing to the different, like, first it's them dancing, then it's to some other action that's going on in this club, and it's almost anxiety inducing the way it's just flashing from one thing to the other.
They could have done a mashup Cruising for Warriors, you know.
Would bring a whole new meaning to Warriors Come Out and Play.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So with the multiple killers, I like to think the ambiguous, it's like almost a jumping killer from one person to another.
Mm-hmm.
Have any of you seen the Japanese movie Cure from like the late 90s? And it kind of has a concept like that.
That's
I think Steve mentioned that.
Yeah.
Steve mentioned that on his stream last night. I'm aware of this, like 1997. It's one I've been wanting to see, for a while.
Yeah, it kind of has the concept of, the serial killer or just the mass murderer, something that'll kind of just like transfer from one person to the next.
Right, yeah.
It kind of too, not exactly, but having multiple killers in the movie, Tenebrae was like that too. I mean, it didn't have any kind of like, there was no subtext going on like here, but there was that you thought you knew what was going on, and then there's a twist, and then another twist, and so I think in that respect this movie's kind of similar.
And just when you think this film can't get any better, we get Al Bundy.
Exactly.
Is he in this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't notice
there he
that.
is.
I didn't notice that the first time I watched it.
Oh my God. You're right.
Wasn't this guy was a doctor in The Exorcist, or he played someone in The Exorcist?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, the doctor, I think. Yeah, I watched it last week.
And that's a nice mural. No anxiety there.
Oh yeah. This is a knife he's carrying. Yeah, take a look at that.
I was gonna say there needs to be the gay version of the what have you done, the Solange knife?
Oh. Yeah. That movie's pretty vicious too.
I love that movie though. I was like,
oh, I like it, but it's vicious. That's all I'll say about it. It's especially that.
It's like probably one of my favorite Argento Fulci sort of giallo films. It's like really underrated. That is.
Yeah, Blissful and I haven't gotten to that trilogy yet, although I've told her about it. She likes all the giallos that she's seen, but we kind of had to lay off the horror movies for a bit, so I showed her this movie Gentlemen Broncos that was done by the guy that did Napoleon Dynamite, which is Gentlemen Broncos. I think was the best thing this guy has ever done. And then I showed her Darren, you're pretty much familiar with Richard Ayoade, right?
No, don't ring a bell.
He's a British comedian with he was in the IT Crowd.
Oh, I know that guy. Yeah.
I'd probably know him if I've seen his face.
he did this movie called Submarine, and it's a British kind of it's a like sort of a romantic comedy about this kid who his name's Oliver Tate, and basically he meets this girl at school, and then he thinks his mother's having an affair on his dad, so he's trying to fall in love with the girl at the same time, circumvent his mother from not having an affair with this guy and stuff. And it's pretty good though, and he directed that. It has Craig Roberts in it. I don't know if you knew who that is.
No, don't ring a bell again.
Okay. But it's definitely.
I'm not massive on UK TV. I used to watch a lot of UK TV, but not so much now.
Yeah, well, this was a film that he did though, and I mean, it's worth watching though. It's really good. So she liked both of those films because she was kind of down, and we watched those, and she loved them, and she couldn't stop laughing. She goes, "Okay, those are going into our top 10 films." I was like, "Okay, that's fine," you know. But tonight, I think we're gonna watch VHS because she's never seen that series. So start off with the first one.
But I agree though, when you're feeling like kind of down in the dumps or a little depressed and stuff, you reach a point where you can't watch any more of this dark stuff.
Right.
And you've got to have something lighter. I know I go through spells like that.
That's when I have to break out the Star Trek.
Steve watched Star Trek The Wrath of Khan today. I think he's got a 4K of it. That's why he was watching it. And, he got really quiet when Spock dies. And I looked in there. I said, "Are you okay, Steve?" Because I know he's seen that whole entire series. And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay," but he did look, really sad. Here's
they actually
insane.
in the American Horror Story, they actually did this scene.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, someone was on about that yesterday.
Al Pacino in Blacked.
That must be like horrifying to see that guy coming at you.
And it's not like he comes in there one time and does it. It's like multiple times.
Is anyone here good with Photoshop?
Not me.
I use Photoshop quite a bit. I don't think this guy gives a shit, if he hurt him.
Everyone's seen the picture of the meme with the group of black gentlemen standing behind the one girl on the couch.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, if we could just Photoshop Pacino's face on the girl.
Yeah, I love using Photoshop actually because I tried to get Steve to use Photoshop because he uses Paint to do everything. I said, "Steve, if you would use Photoshop, it would be it would make your life easier doing this stuff because you get to work in layers and stuff like that. And once you figure out how to work with those layers, Photoshop just becomes kind of second nature."
The thing is with this scene as well, why don't they ever go back to using this again? Because this is one way of getting, information out of people.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have a lot of people, confessing murders that they never committed just to get rid of that black guy, really.
Just have that guy come in and waterboard you. That'll get some information.
Oh yeah, you confess to everything, wouldn't you? Really?
It'd be like Al Qaeda, me.
Yeah.
This is why Peggy doesn't get any attention.
That guy looks like he's about ready to get the antacid out or something. He just looks like he can't take it anymore.
One guy looked like he was enjoying it a bit too much.
Yeah, that's scary.
And you can see by this point as well that how it would really affect your whole personality change. It would make you a different person, and that comes across.
It's like he almost can't go back to his old life before this undercover job. It's just like he's just not there when he's with her.
So wonder she hasn't walked out on him really a bit, long before.
Nothing.
And he won't talk to her. I mean, she's trying to, talk to him, not necessarily about all the undercover stuff he's done, because he's already told her that he can't talk about that, but he's just refusing to have a normal conversation with her.
I think she should have guessed by now, though, with the black leather jackets and everything.
What he's doing.
The handcuffs,
And trust me, guys, whenever a woman says something like, maybe we should cut loose for a while, or maybe we should separate for a while, and the guy basically has no comment on his end other than, that doesn't make you feel very good, because I've had conversations with men that are like that you just get nothing from them. And you're really upset and saying, hey, we really need to talk about this. And they're like, yeah, whatever. So if you really care about a woman, don't do that.
You just don't say, I'm out. Okay.
Right.
Let me know when I should come back.
Yeah, probably works both ways as well, though, Dana.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some women that are like that, too, that they just, it's like, I guess some people shut off their emotions for so long that they can't turn them back on when they need to.
Yeah.
Odd turn of phrase.
This kind of reminds me too of the scene in The Exorcist where Father Karras is talking to the other priest, and he says, I can't do this job, I'm unfit. And it sort of reminds me of this scene, because he says, I can't do this job.
Yeah, I can see that now, yeah.
I was going to say it reminds me of the French Connection with them going up the stairs.
Yeah.
The train station.
That was a poor choice of words. We're up to our ass in
That's
this.
what I was going to say, too.
There's a lot in this movie.
He's like, all right, I'll take it. The guy's just standing there like, oh, do I still have it in my hand or don't I? Oh, man.
Smoking indoors.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, there's that guy.
And this doesn't look like a photocopy of these. It looks like they just ripped it out of the damn yearbook.
This is great acting though, because you can see in his face, like, you know, he's so far in. He wants to get out, obviously, but he's just too far involved now.
I think Al Pacino is probably one of the most intense actors I have ever seen. I mean, there's other intense actors, but he is always intense, especially during this time period.
I'd put this up there with one of his best. I think, like, from what I've seen, I haven't seen everything he's done, but the ones I have, yeah, this is right up there.
Scarface is great.
Yeah.
He's got some good speeches in And Justice for All.
I don't think I've seen
Right.
that one.
It's like courtroom drama.
You know, I was just thinking, and I had forgotten about this, but I think that's the dad on Boy Meets World. I'm pretty sure it is, which is so weird.
But the guy sitting down, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with that show.
Yeah, that was the show, like a sitcom show that had Fred Savage's brother on it.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they ever showed that yet.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
But in terms of Al Pacino, has anyone, have you two guys seen a film called Sea of Love?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know the movie, but I haven't watched it.
That's kind of, yeah, I would probably call that a horror film. Maybe slightly a slasher film, but that's another good one. But he didn't make that many horror movies, did he, really?
Mm-mm.
These are the only two I can think of offhand.
There's that one he did with Robin Williams, where Robin
Right.
Williams is the killer and everything, and oh shit.
That's not that 1 hour photo, is it?
No.
No.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't think he was in that.
Hey, I'm doing a watch along with Dana and some other people. Okay, bye. Fucking Jimmy never knows when to, call at the right time.
He called one other time when you were on here when I was doing the stream.
Yeah. It said, I'm trying to think, para-insomnia or maybe just insomnia. I can't think of the damn name.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I don't think
there's
I've
one
seen
called
that one, though.
Yeah, it's called Insomnia then, it must be. But yeah, from what you've just said, I'll be looking that one up.
So we know what it means to have different colored handkerchiefs. What does it mean to have your shirt sticking out like that? Does that mean anything?
Probably not.
So we kind of looking at our maybe second or third killer by now, aren't we?
I believe so. Gosh, this movie has seemed to went really fast because I'm an hour and 12 minutes and like 40 something seconds in.
Yeah, it's one of those films you can just watch and before you know it, it's over in a blink of an eye. That, we've never had sort of apartments like that here in the UK. Was that actually a thing back then? Because obviously that would have been so easy to break into.
Yeah, I mean maybe in New York or something, like these bigger places possibly, but
That makes no sense either, does it? Because New York, you've got the highest crime rate. Yeah, to have that is crazy.
like even when I lived out in the country with my parents, I didn't want to leave windows open, like in the summertime when it maybe wasn't too awfully hot. My mom would
Yeah,
rather open the windows at night and just have the air come in through the screen or something, and I was just terrified. And I would say, "No, Mom, I don't want to." And especially here in Louisville, I don't want to leave the windows open at night. I make sure that everything is locked up tight. The doors are locked and bolted, and I've always been like that.
yeah. Like I say, I don't know about where both you live, but here you've literally got to, otherwise you'd be broken into.
Well, it looks like he got rid of the leather for a little bit. Maybe he's thinking about stealing this guy's leather. There's a whole heck of a lot of leather in here. He won't notice.
This guy's flat is just a stereotypical gay man. It's flat,
Mm.
Did he discover the wardrobe of the Judas Priest cover band?
Probably did. Like that is like even though this is supposed to be a gay guy, that is the prettiest handwriting for a guy I've ever seen in my life.
good headline there for the paper.
Yeah, hate killer still.
You kind of know what that headline's about. There's no mincing about with that.
And there's more than one person reading that paper.
Yeah.
So I know this happened after the movie was made, but the whole AIDS epidemic kind of adds a whole layer of unsettling.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yeah, because that. Yeah, at the time, I'm not sure the actual year where AIDS actually came, but I can imagine how bad it was. With all their sort of friend lovers and all, getting dying basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just seeing communities like this were ground zero and were devastated by
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you can imagine that. That's horrific in itself. Lucky enough they found a cure.
This is like, since we're talking about the AIDS epidemic, I was like, I don't know how I miss so much of the talk about AIDS. And, even before they were calling it AIDS, I mean, I know I was quite young when all that stuff got started, and people were getting sick and stuff. But the first time I ever heard the term AIDS was when Magic Johnson said, I'm serious, that was the first time I ever heard that. I don't know. I mean,
What?
I never heard my parents talk about it. And now I've went back and watched like old news footage, and all this stuff was all over the place. And so I don't know how I was, I don't think my parents were trying to protect me from it or anything like that. I never remember them talking about it, but they obviously knew what it was, because I remember when Magic Johnson announced about having HIV, I remember Dad just shaking his head and saying, "Oh, Magic." I just remember that clearly. But nothing else like prior to that. And I know it sounds crazy, but that is literally my first, I guess, recognition that there was something going on like that.
Wow. I remember all the news footage, and then the first day of high school, I walked into high school like a butthead going, I want to score. And then I go to health class, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna tell you about AIDS now. Can kill you. Don't have sex."
Yeah, it was everywhere here in the UK as well. And again, everyone's saying it's a gay disease and all that, but I mean, heterosexual, people were getting it, which is just, looking back at those times, you can imagine it was just like horrific.
Well, there are people get blood transfusions early on before they could do any tests. There were people getting it that way.
Was it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Asimov, the sci-fi writer, that's how he contracted it. Was blood transfusion.
I know that's how Arthur Ashe, the tennis player, got it. I think was a blood transfusion.
It's pretty bad to get it anyway, but to get it like that must be, just.
I mean, really without any fun.
Yeah.
I think there was even a doctor. There was a book about this years and years ago, but I forgot what the name of it was. But he was doing, I believe, an autopsy on a person that had died of AIDS, and he accidentally, just one slip of the scalpel, and he cut himself. It mixed with that person's blood that had died of AIDS, and he got it that way.
Oh God, terrible.
Well, that movie Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey, it's based on a true story where he's this rodeo cowboy, and he was sleeping around with a bunch of like junkie women or women that were junkies, and he got it like that way. And stuff. That's a pretty, decent movie. It's rough, but it's worth a watch.
Yeah, I thought Matthew McConaughey was really good in it.
See, it's funny. There's James Remar. See, so this could be a Warriors cruising mashup.
See, Dana, was your dad upset about Eazy-E? Sorry, that joke fell.
Dang, he's got a big old knife too. There's too many people with knives here.
How many people just walk around in their underpants during the daytime as well? It's not a good look.
Maybe a lot of gay guys do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely the stereotype gay guy.
He's put some shorts on.
Now he's went back to the leather again.
This is another good scene coming up. They got like that little bit of a saying, is it you're here, I'm here, between them when...
Brandon's in here in the chat. He brings up a good point. He says, also, why is Pacino not questioning these guys? He's just chilling and dancing. No wonder folks got killed.
Has anyone seen Crimes of Passion?
That's another one. I've heard of it, but haven't seen it.
That's another one that would fit nicely with this and Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Right, I think there's an Arrow version of Crimes of Passion. I've never looked into it really.
It's Ken Russell, so it's a little more, flamboyant and outrageous, but it still fits into the. If I was programming a film festival with these types of movies.
Right.
The sex is dangerous movies of the early 80s.
I just remember, like, how many of you guys have seen Sleepaway Camp 2?
Yeah.
Do you remember that when Allie is like, she keeps like screwing around with that one guy? She don't even want that guy. She's just kind of using him. And after they have sex, she's like, putting her clothes back on. She says, "You don't have AIDS, do you?" And I just, it's like, what? That's one hell of a time to be asking the guy if he's got AIDS or anything after you've already had sex with him.
Well, you tell him afterwards. You say, "Oh, by the way, you might want to know."
Well, it's kind of like that scene in Dress to Kill, where the woman like just meets that guy in the museum and then goes back to his place and they have sex, and then she's gonna leave him a nice little note that she had a nice afternoon fling with him or whatever. And she finds out that he's got an STD.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't say anything like AIDS or anything, but maybe chlamydia or something like that is on there. And she's just horrified, you know. It's like, well, that's what you get, you know, for doing stupid things like that.
There's so many HIPAA violations.
And then it
This
turns out
senior didn't go on. Sorry, Tech.
okay, I was just gonna say, yeah, and then it didn't matter anyway because she got filleted
Yeah,
by the straight razor, you know, and stuff.
that was
Oh,
her
right.
punishment. So
But I was going to say this senior was apparently this was an actual meeting spot of the gay people in the park, Central Park.
See, it'd be funny if the guy from the Warriors was handcuffed to this bench.
I was thinking the same
It'd
thing.
be like, oh, it's the wrong part of the town. Don't do this to me. Please, don't leave me.
well, they say never to hang out in Central Park at nighttime anyway.
I think Friedkin actually caught, you know, some gay couples as well doing things while they were filming, you know, scenes like this.
I mean, there's not only that, but people using drugs and everything.
Oh yeah.
I'd be fearful if Dana went to New York City.
I might not come back. You know, if something would happen to me there. I definitely would not go by myself. The only way I would go now is if Steve was with me. I would not want to go to one of these big cities by myself.
You'd have to be on point and listening to him.
Times Square is supposed to be really cleaned up now, though, isn't it? No real signs of drugs or anything. Because I know London's still pretty bad in certain places.
New York got a lot better from what I understand, but well, from last time I went anyway. But then I guess in the past few years it's gotten pretty bad again.
Oh, right.
I was there one summer when I was 13. That was like 78, and they wouldn't, you know, we drove along 42nd, but they wouldn't let us out or do anything, you know, when we get to a better part of town.
I remember when Uncle Bill went up to Michigan. Darren, do you remember that? It was a while back. It was like probably around 2010 or something like that he went up there. And I heard stories about that he wanted to get out and walk around up like around the Detroit area and stuff. And the people there that lived in that area told him, no, you don't want to get out and walk around here. We'll tell you where you can get out and walk around at, because they were afraid something would happen to him.
There's parts of Newport. I live in Newport in Wales, and there's a certain part. It's called Pill, and no, you just do not go anywhere near there after 10 o'clock. Because there's drugs, there's prostitutes, there's everything you can imagine.
Well, so there's some parts of Louisville that you really shouldn't be in after dark, and I see women alone walking down dark alleys and stuff like that. I'm like, you would never catch me doing that.
Yeah, because they're working.
Right.
Well, these look like they didn't look like hustlers. They just look like regular women.
So have all of you seen The Changeling?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yes.
I love it.
One of my favorite films, that is.
So I lived in Denver, quite close to that house. In the park in that movie, Chessman Park, is really Cheeseman Park, which is in the Capitol Hill area of Denver. And you know, there's all the graves there, but you know, before this is back in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe in the 2000s. But basically, that park was a big gay cruising area.
Huh.
And
Really?
everybody was like, do not go there after dark. Do not stop your car if you're going there. And I would drive through and they'd be like, why are all these men just waiting in their cars? Pulled over on the side of the
Right.
road. And then they informed me. And it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Is that house still there now?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to go and visit that house. I think that film's one of the best underrated,
Wait,
probably the best ghost film ever made.
it was fun. The local theater, which is a few blocks from that house, showed it and mentioned it and had a local expert come on and give a little, talk about it. It's pretty interesting. The
That's a
history
film
of
that
that park
doesn't get.
is wild.
Oh right, it just doesn't get mentioned a lot, really.
Mm-mm.
This is a part where it gets to this part, it can get quite confusing because you've got to sort of piece all the sort of killers and whatever's happening, and it's not, like you say, it's not really spelled out for you.
The screen went black for a second, and I was like, "Oh man, did my coffee mess up?" But it's okay.
Yeah,
No,
mine did as well.
Yeah, I got the same.
So what's everyone's conclusion on who the killer is, or killers?
Right, so that's a good question.
Yeah, I was
think,
going to say I still don't think I'm sure of everything about this movie.
yeah, I think obviously it's a combination of killers. It's certainly at least 2 or maybe 3.
And
I know.
I think Friedkin wanted it to be like that. I really do.
Yeah, it's probably an accurate sort of, for the time, because there was numerous gay serial killers at the time, even while this was being made, But I've read somewhere that people think that the Al Pacino character was actually doing some of the killings, which I don't really read into much, but
Mm-mm.
so there's so many possibilities.
What would y'all say to a theory that maybe Joe Spinell's character, maybe him and his partner, one of the other cops, is killing some of these guys? Maybe they like rough sex with these guys, and maybe they're ending up killing them in the process, and they think, well, it's okay. There's another killer running around here. It won't matter.
Yeah, it's possible. Especially with now, there's a thing now in the UK where, we're starting to learn that some of these policemen we've got over here are killing people as well now. So it's not something, it could definitely happen.
Boy,
I
I
would
hate
say,
that they killed Don Scardino's character, but he did have a great death in this. That was a
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, he's not used enough, really.
is this a scandal in the UK about the police?
Yeah, there's been a few girls that's been abducted and killed, and actually, they found out that the policeman has picked her up, flashed his badge or whatever, and said, "Oh, you've got to accompany me in the car." Gone and killed her. That's 2 or 3 of them have been really recently. So yeah, it's become a thing.
Is this like the work of one killer, or is it a?
No, different, all different. There's a case, I think the guy's called Wayne Cousins. I don't know if you want to look it up. But then, a lot of other things are coming out now as well, different cases. so women on the streets now, you can't even trust a policeman. It's, that bad over here at the moment.
Ted Bundy did that. One of the victims that I believe
Yeah.
to get away from him, he posed as a cop to try to get her.
Yeah, how many people would question a policeman, you just wouldn't think twice. So I got to ask the question now, is the final scene, the final sort of shot in this film, how do you guys interpret that with Pacino? Do you think that maybe he's going to carry on go on to become the killer, or do you just think...
That's what I always thought.
Yeah, it looks kind of, suspicious. There's a look in his eyes that's not that same type of intense look he's had the whole movie. It's a different sort of look.
It could be the fact that he's actually thinking about his sexuality as well. Maybe he's, turned the other way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And there's a kind of sadness though to his eyes there too.
Yeah.
They should have had him looking at her in the getup, they might have told a bit more.
Right.
I mean, seriously, because he'd be kind of shocked she was wearing it, and then,
And that might have turned him on that she had all that leather on.
Oh, wouldn't it have been great to have got a sequel with Pacino going on to be the killer, though? That would have been brilliant. But that's just absolutely flown by.
Yeah. It's 7:55, but I mean, it didn't feel like we were sitting here for an hour and 41 minutes or whatever.
Nope.
I always did like this song though, but the first time I ever heard this song was on Grindhouse on Death Proof, on the Death Proof.
Yeah.
Who is it?
It's a song by Willie DeVille, I think.
Yeah, he used to go by the name Mink DeVille sometimes too.
Okay. Yeah, Texas is our, I think of him as the resident music expert.
See, the music was by the Cripples, Rough Trade. Those are some quite the band names.
TJ says, oh, Pacino's character is definitely in the closet with his foot out the door, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any, I guess, like final thoughts on this movie upon watching it again? Or for
me, it's I can watch this 2 or 3 times a year and just not get bored of it. I mean, I think it's right up there with one of the best. It's such a well-made movie. Like, not just the subject matter is obviously a bit dark and what have you, but yeah, I think it's one of I think apart from The Exorcist, I think it's his second best film, and I can't say too much more about it. I just love it. It's one of my favorite films.
Jay, Texas, y'all have any other thoughts you want to add?
It's like
there should have been more Powers Booth. That's all.
Yeah.
Him just going on giving the fact, the FAQs of the clubs and cruising. To say, I love this, Sorcerer, and Exorcist are my 3 favorite Friedkin films.
Yeah.
I guess for me, well, definitely The Exorcist and this one. Like I could watch them anytime, and people probably that at least that are outside of our circles will probably say, "Gosh, why would you want to watch these two movies that much?
They're the greatest.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
well made. I mean, I've always said that Friedkin knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what type of movie he wanted to make, and he knew exactly how to get that movie made.
I'm having. What was his movie he made like 10 years ago? Something Joe.
Killer
Oh,
Joe.
Killer Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
I'm-
that
I-
would probably have to be my least favorite Friedkin movie because I don't know, I just didn't get that movie, and that's the only one of his movies that I've been like that with.
I gotta rewatch it, but I laughed a lot during that movie when I first saw it. I also like Bug quite a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to see The Guardian again, or is that as bad as I remember it?
I mean, honestly, I would rather watch the Guardian again than Killer Joe, just because I don't know what it was that I just maybe I need to give Killer Joe another try because I've got it over there on the shelf. I got it on Blu-ray when it came out because of two things. One, it was a Friedkin movie, and two, it had Matthew McConaughey in it. So,
I'll be right back, guys.
okay.
I don't think I've never seen Killer Joe or Guardian. I don't think I've seen that many of his other films apart from the more horror-based stuff. But there is one I'm interested in that he made that's never had a DVD or Blu-ray release, and it's called Rampage from 1987.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one's
It's kind of a slasher film. Yeah.
There's two different cuts of it. I remember that there were like multiple. It was the studio changed it a bunch upon initial release, and then you had the. Remember, there was like an import Japanese version, and then eventually, when the DVD came out, there were like two cuts of it.
Oh right, it's like on DVD then. It must. I don't think it's a UK release. I think you can find the actual film on YouTube in some places, but I would just sort of hold out to watch that. Maybe hoping for a Blu-ray, but I can't see it happening.
Oh come on! In this day and age,
everything
is. If Hell of the Living Dead is coming out on 4K, Friedkin films are possible.
Okay, I want a damn Terror on Tour 4K then. That's what I want.
I'm sure Vinegar Syndrome will make your dreams come true.
Yeah, they need to.
Did that Terror 10 Killer come out after Dana? I don't think it did it?
Okay, so here's what here's the story I heard from two different people, Darren, on the Terror 10 Killer Blu-ray. Evidently, Vinegar Syndrome has acquired the rights from VCI for that. So now this Terror 10 Killer Blu-ray is going to come out from Vinegar Syndrome next year.
Wait, what is Terror 10 Killer?
Terror 10 Killer, you never seen that, Jay?
No.
You're not missing much, to be honest.
Did a thing over that movie, so if that tells you anything about what type of movie this is, if Riff Tracks.
Well, Riff Tracks and Vinegar Syndrome, I think I know. I probably don't need to see it.
I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, Jay. It's not a very good movie. Doesn't have good acting in it, but you know how I sometimes say it can be the most awfully made movie, but if it's entertaining, then I will watch it. And Terror 10 Killer is definitely entertaining.
Okay. Now, is it entertaining and like a like a Troll 2 kind of way, or is it entertaining and this is actually good? I assume it's not the good.
It probably doesn't edge that much into it doesn't go that much over the edge like Troll 2 does. You're not going to have anybody screaming out things like you can't piss on hospitality or anything like that, but it's just
yeah, okay, because I like that in pieces and what cranberry sauce. What's the blood?
Blood Rage. That's what I'm doing a watch along for next week. So
like those I like. Those are like, okay, this is good, stupid. But then sometimes it just, careens into this is just bad and miserable. Why am I wasting my time?
no, I personally I wouldn't say Terror at Ten Killer is miserable bad. Um, it's just bad enough that you find it entertaining. Now there a while back, and I don't even think this company's in business anymore, but they put out these double features there for a while of these movies that weren't really good, but they were just fun to watch and make fun of. And so one that came out was Terror at Ten Killer and The Last Slumber Party. And Riff Tracks has done commentary over both of those films. Now, if I had to pick, if you had a knife to my back and said, "I'm going to stab you if you don't tell me which one is the better of these two," I would have to say that Terror at Ten Killer is the better of those two films. But The Last Slumber Party has fun parts in it too. But I'll tell you, The Last Slumber Party is freaking confusing. Darren, have you seen The Last Slumber Party?
Yeah, I probably like it more than Terror 10 Killer.
Yeah,
So
I think I
say
remember you saying that actually.
I would say Terror 10 Killer was a bit of a slog to get through. Don't get me wrong, I do like it, but it's a really slow sort of slasher. But with The Last Slumber Party, I find a bit more fun. I mean, it's just, and that's one that I don't think that's got a Blu-ray release, is it? So, that's one that needs to be brought out. But yeah, I'd say today, go and maybe watch them on YouTube or something before you even commit, because it might not be your thing.
Yeah, I get the feeling you're a hardcore slasher fan.
Yeah. Me and Dana, yeah, definitely.
Yes, me and Darren tend to like things that it seems like nobody else likes. Like we were talking about, He Knows You're Alone one night.
Yeah,
I'm back, by the way, everybody.
Oh, welcome back.
Thank you.
You got thought. It's like I can't understand why people don't like Final Exam, and I just don't get it. Whereas I love everything about it, even though people say, "Oh, I don't get," there's no kills for 40 minutes and all that. It's I don't know.
Two people say, Darren, I've said this before, they don't like it because the guy just shows up at the college, just randomly shows up, and it's like he's going to drive by the college, and then he's like, but wait, I think I'm going to just turn in here and see how many people I can kill while I'm here. But I think that's cooler sometimes, where they don't have any kind of agenda. Nobody was bad to them 10 years ago, and they're coming back to get revenge on people because they bullied them or something. This guy's just off his rocker. He's just looking for people to kill. And unfortunately, this college campus happens to be one of the stops he makes as he's just riding around in his van.
Exactly,
that's creepier.
And with that film as well, you've got the kind of an Animal House atmosphere, like during the start, which I like as well. It's kind of blends a few different genres together.
But we talked about this too, that this kind of movie wouldn't get made now because of that.
No, exactly, yeah. But you got the radish, funny enough, we watched a gay theme film tonight. But you got the radish character who's gay. Yeah. I think he's brilliant. But yeah, it's surprising. There's a few films quite a few films that me and Dana like, that just no one seems to like at all. Says probably more about us than them. Sorry, Jay.
What happens at the beginning of Final Exam, Jay?
Yeah, that you said would make it so it wouldn't get made.
Well, there is a prank that the fraternity performs, and they call it a prank. But nowadays, people would be like, "Oh my God, that's vicious." But the one guy wants to make an 82 on his chemistry exam, so he gets with his fraternity brothers and he says, "We're going to pull off this prank that's going to cause a diversion so I can cheat on my test and get my 82. So what they do is one of his buddies in the fraternity gets together with some of the other frat guys, and they stage this thing where somebody pulls up in a van, they jump out with ski masks, and it appears that they mow down a bunch of people with guns, and drag the dead bodies, some of them, into the van and take off. I said, this would never get made now because of the amount of school shootings that have
Like,
happened.
bro, just study. I'm not doing that.
Exactly, just study. Yes. But yeah, that it definitely, no movie that has anything like that would get made now. They would not greenlight anything like that. Even my mom was horrified by it. Like, she came walking through the living room when I was watching it when I was still living at home, and she said, she just stopped and she looked. She said, "Oh my gosh, Dana!" I said, "Mom, it's a prank. They're doing a prank. That looks awful," she said. And I agree, it does in the context of the way our world is now. But I'm guessing it was a lot more innocent back in what, 81 or so.
But if things are more crazy, why don't we have crazier movies to, entertain us as opposed to, just seems like things reversed. When things
Hmm.
were more innocent, we were allowed to have crazier movies that would do anything. And now that things are crazier, it's like, oh, gotta clutch my pearls. You can't show that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know, but the world is so. I mean, it's messed up in a lot of ways, and it's not just the United States, and it's not just one country or the other. We're all freaking messed up now. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Darren has talked about things in the UK that are, flipped upside down, and you know, people in other countries I've heard say different things, and they're just like, what in the world is wrong with people anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just whatever you say nowadays. You're too scared to say what you actually think because you're just going to offend someone. You
Hmm.
know, it's gone crazy.
Yeah, we could blame it on a lot of the political figures here in the United States, and I guess in the UK, you guys could too, right, Darren? Some of the political.
Oh yeah, what's going on with our political, at the moment with the people in power is just crazy. We've had three different prime ministers in the space of 3 months,
Hmm.
So have you put your
so
application in?
I probably get it as well. Um, it's just the country, the UK is just in a mess at the moment. Like, and I know it was pretty bad for you guys as well, with depending on whether you were, all for Donald Trump and that back a few years ago. But yeah,
Can't even talk to my own mother, who I love dearly. I cannot talk politics, even trying to lightly talk about politics. I just can't talk politics at all with her. Um,
yeah, like Facebook is the worst. I was putting some stuff up on Facebook about politics, a UK politician I don't like, and people would just unfriend you and just come out and just absolutely blast you in comments. And it's like they're offended, like whether you're like talking about them individually or whatever. So it's crazy. I would say, on Facebook or platforms like this, really, you just cannot talk about politics because people are just, they just go insane. They
the
just go
last
insane with
time
it.
the last time my mom and I got into it over Trump, it was when Trump had just lost the election and Biden got in, and my mom was like, "Oh, poor Trump," and like I'm ashamed of it now, but I got tired of hearing her say that, and I said, "I'm hanging up now," and I didn't talk to my mom for weeks. And Steve
Right.
even like told me, he said, "Dana, you got to talk to your mom," you know. And I finally, I relented and I talked to her and I said, "Mom," I said, "life's too short for us to get in fights over some stupid guy that was president for a while. I'm just not, I'm not going to do that anymore. So we just kind of try not to talk about politics at all.
The
You
thing
guys,
is, as well, with politics is it doesn't matter what country you're from or whatever. They're all in it for themselves. They're not going to help the likes of myself, yourself, people, unless you're in that really high, money gap. Say you're mega rich, basically.
Right.
They're just looking out for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the whole thing is corrupt, and I've just lost. I used to follow it to a certain degree, but I've just lost so much.
I'm just going to take care of myself from now on and
Yeah,
screw
exactly.
politics. It's just it's a big old
so
mess.
you guys are having an election. Well, you guys, like I'm not part of it. There's an election like in 2 days, right?
Yeah,
So
basically, yeah.
how are the political ads and everything? Because I'm removed from it now, and I don't miss it.
Well, I try to stay away from it as much as I can, Jay, but like now I'm starting to get texts on my phone.
Oh boy.
It's like, friggin' don't send me texts on my phone. Join this town hall meeting. Come to this town hall meeting. And now they're like actually putting people's names on there. And I'm like, God, just leave me alone. I just don't care anymore. I don't care.
How are the lawn signs?
I'm seeing a few of them around Louisville. Some people got like great big ass signs in their yard. Some people got, a couple little ones. But again, I just try to ignore it as much as I can.
How do we get here? Can we? I'm thinking like, how do I steer this to the happy place of vinegar syndrome in slasher movies?
What did TJ say here? TJ says politics make me want to watch Halloween Ends on half speed to make the pain last longer.
Oh, I know what I was gonna add. All right, Dana. Hellraiser, the new one.
Uh-huh.
Dana
was not happy.
I know. I know you weren't happy, but I gotta say, I watched that and Halloween Ends back to back.
Okay.
Halloween Ends was dog shit, and then I go into Hellraiser, fairly cranky, and going, oh, this is going to be awful. And the first 45 minutes really tried my patience, and then we got to the Cenobites and all that, and then I was like, hey, this isn't so bad. This is actually pretty good. These Cenobites are looking pretty great and kind of like Clive Barker's drawings. So I was pretty surprised you had such a negative reaction to it.
Yeah, and Steve actually, he and I kind of had a similar conversation what you're talking about, because Steve told me, he said, like Clive Barker's original vision was more like this, Dana. And I said, I realize that, Steve, but I said, did Clive Barker, or did he not direct the original Hellraiser movie? He knew exactly what he was creating with that. And I never heard him say that he was pressured to create a character that became known as Pinhead, that he couldn't use his original vision. So I just say, well, I realized that these Cenobites were more like his original story. But I like the original Hellraiser. I tried. I actually went into this Hellraiser that was shown on Hulu. I went into it with an open mind. I did not go into it being negative. It just, the longer it went on, the more negative I got about it. But it's cool that people like the Cenobites and they like the different way that they looked and all that. I'm totally cool with that.
Have you read any of the Hellraiser comics?
I have not.
Because for me, it was, I mean, they kind of just told like, little short stories, a lot of them for the most part, just like about the box, the lament configuration and just kind of what happens. So I just looked at this new one as, okay, this is another story. It's not a per se reboot or remake of it.
Right.
It was just like, okay, this is just another story within this universe. So that,
Yeah.
it wasn't
Which
like it was
that's a cool
trying
way to look
to.
at it.
It's not like it's trying to supplant the original or change it or anything like that. It's just like, all right, this is just a new story in this universe.
Hmm. And maybe what I need to do for myself is like give myself a little bit of time and then go back and rewatch it, because I've done that with other movies. I've watched things and didn't really care for them, and then gave myself a little while, maybe 6 months or something, and then went back and watched it. And I'm like, it's not this bad or that bad. So maybe I need to do that with this one as well. And I would be totally open to that.
And I'm not saying it's great or anything, but I thought it was solid, and the new Cenobites were really quite well done. And like the dream scene, not the dream scenes, but like when the girl's in the back of the van and the dimension opens up, I thought all that was handled pretty well as far as creating a space for them to enter the world without it, just being like, "Ooh, look, there's smoke." I mean, Barker did it somewhat, but it was done a little bit more seamlessly in this film.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I tend to argue more with Steve and be a lot harder on him than I would you guys, because I live with Steve. And so it's like every day it seems like Steve is watching something that, and I know Texas has like kidded me about things like Wolf Cop and stuff. He'll say, "Oh, Daniel's got Wolf Cop hate," Um, but I still hate Wolf Cop. I absolutely hate that movie. I don't, but I don't begrudge anybody that likes it. But Steve and I actually got into a screaming argument over that Wolf Cop movie.
But where's the how do you get hate for Wolf Cop? Like, what did it do that you hated it?
I just thought it was so stupid. And I thought the whole idea, not that the cop could become a werewolf, that part wasn't stupid. It was the way the scenes where, like, when he was with that woman and she was just so turned on because he was a werewolf, and the whole werewolf sex with a woman thing. I just thought all of that stuff was just kind of stupid.
All right, so that pushed your button. That pushed your hate button.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Barbarian pushed my you had it so good and you blew it button.
Yeah, and I'm like that with some movies too. Yeah.
Steve surprises me, because with Steve, he likes more newer stuff than I would have thought he would.
Exactly.
Whereas being Dana old school, yeah. With Steve, he seems to be going on to, he does like a lot of the newer stuff, the new TV stuff and all that, which surprises me a lot, to be honest.
Steve always like tells me that I'm too judgmental about things, and he thinks that I need to be more open. Like he'll be willing to sit down and watch anything at least one time. And some things he doesn't like, and he says, I'll never go back and watch that again. But then the majority of the new stuff, Darren, you and I are alike on this. It's weird to me how much of that stuff, at least 95% of that new stuff he likes. And there's like maybe 5% that after he watches it, he doesn't care for it. And I don't know. I think maybe I'm in the wrong or something, because maybe my wires are not connected right or something. And maybe I'm just not getting it. I'm not getting what some other people are getting out of these movies.
Yeah, well, you're not on your own, because I'm exactly the same. I'll always sit down with the intention of I want to like a film, and that is just, I don't know. I just 90% of the newer stuff nowadays I just cannot get into. I've said before, and it takes something really special or really like a different aspect to the film that I've never seen before or something like that to really make it work. Because I don't know, these newer films are just because I mentioned on the podcast earlier today, I've recently watched the two X films, X and Pearl,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed them. I was, surprised. I do think X was slightly overrated. Everyone's saying it's this, mega brilliant and all that. But yeah, I think I give X a 7 out of 10 and Pearl a 6 out of 10. But for me, that's pretty good. For
Right.
considering all the films nowadays are usually a 4 or 5 out of 10 for me.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. I just can't get on with newer films. But that's not to say I won't give them a go.
Right.
Texas, did you see X?
Oh yeah.
Thoughts?
Oh, I loved it.
Were you on board? Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I mean, it was very TCM-ish, a little bit, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good.
Texas, you just didn't like when you got did you get the Blu-ray and it didn't have the Pearl trailer on there?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in the theater, and then this friend of mine, he never saw it, and he came over to watch it, and then I was like, I said, okay, well, after this, it should be the trailer for Pearl, and it wasn't on there, and I thought, well, that's strange, and stuff, and then he was the one I told you about that was confused because he thought that Maxine was Pearl. He goes, well, I don't want to see a movie about, the girl, and stuff. I mean, and her origins. I said, dude, that's not what it's about. I mean, he couldn't even tell that it was totally different with the costumes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jimmy and I went and saw Pearl. And then I told him, I said, well, I did see Pearl. And he goes, was it good? And I said, yeah. I said, you were all confused about it. I said, you were thinking it was about Maxine, but it was about the old lady. And then I said, the girl who played, Maxine also played the old lady. And he's like, oh, I didn't know. And I was like, yeah. So Pearl was the backstory of the old woman. He goes, oh, well, now that I knew that, I should have gone to see it. And I'm like, yeah, don't you think? So.
Yeah, it took me I was well into the film before I realised that Mia Goth was playing the two parts. And I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with the third part now, Maxine.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone know if that's already been filmed?
I would assume so, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was my thinking, but
yeah. So I think they may have done them all back to back, like so. But what I love about those two films as well was the actual. He knows how to go back in time. The whole set design, the clothes they're wearing. Like in the one film, the first film X, it's totally 70s, and then he captures the Second World War really well in Pearl. So I've not seen House of the Devil, but I hear that's pretty similar to where you can go back in time and just really get that look to a T. So yeah, I'm excited to watch the third one. Both didn't blow me away, but they've kept me interested to where I do want to see this third film now.
Yeah, I was going to say too, and I said this last night as well, is one thing I cannot stand, and I think is prevalent with a lot of filmmakers now, not all of them, mind you, but a lot of them, is lazy filmmaking.
Yeah.
I cannot abide lazy filmmaking. And one of the big things with me is, and Steve and I disagree about several movies about this, I don't like non-endings. I'm not saying that every loose end has to be tied up at the end of the movie. I'm not saying that. But give me a freaking ending. Do not cop out. And I'm not going to tell everything about Smile because I don't know how many people have seen Smile or have not seen it. But Smile was a movie that I really enjoyed. I thought was creepy. I thought it was a pretty unique idea. And then we got all the way to the end of it, and damn it if they didn't cop out at the end and I felt like that they didn't have a non-ending. And Steve looked at me, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. It had an ending. I said, no, it didn't. It did not have an ending. And so I see a lot of filmmakers doing that. It's either they don't have an ending or it's just lazy. It's like they either forgot how to make a movie. I've seen established directors go this route too. And it really upsets me that they used to make really good films, and now when they make a film, it's lazy. It's like, did you forget everything that you knew how to do? I mean, it doesn't even feel like this particular director's movie. I don't know what it feels like, but it doesn't feel like it was made by the same person. And some of the, I'll just bring up Robert Hiltzik, who made the original Sleepaway Camp. And then years and years and years went by, and that was probably the problem. And then he made Return to Sleepaway Camp, and I was like, what is this shit? What did you forget how to make a good horror film?
This is the one that Dead Pit guys talked about in like the mid 2000s, right? And then it wasn't released until years later.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't even
know,
because you can just smell that it's way past without opening the packaging. You can just smell it and see that the date is way past due on this movie. I can buy that.
Yeah, the expiration date's already come and gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I got. I pretty much got the DVD straight after when it came out, and I've not opened it. Never watched it.
No.
It's kind of out of print now as well, but I've heard so much horror stories about that film. Isn't Felissa Rose in it, and she plays some policeman or something with a moustache, fake moustache?
Yeah, she's in
I mean,
it.
that's just enough to put you off.
I think, I think several people from the original Sleepaway Camp are on there. The guy that played Ronnie, the guy that was always working out in the background, I think he shows up there. Jonathan Tiersten, who played Ricky, he shows up in it. But they can't even save the movie.
Were there lots of shorts for the guys like in the first movie?
I don't believe so, and you probably wouldn't want. There were several people that, and I'm not meaning to make fun of them, but you wouldn't have wanted to see these people in short shorts. There's one really obnoxious kid that runs around through the whole thing, and he's kind of, I'm not going to make fun of him, but he was overweight, but he was running around and he was just super annoying the whole entire portion of the movie that he was in. And just, I could take a little bit of obnoxiousness, but when it overtakes the movie, it becomes too much for me to watch.
See, I think with Sleepaway Camp, the original, I think is kind of overrated. Apart from that ending, I think it's just your normal run-of-the-mill slasher film. For me, as a series, I love part 2. That's where my love really is. And part 3 as well is just as much fun. You can tell they're sort of filmed back to back.
Right.
But that original, to me, I just found it to be like a bad Friday the 13th knockoff up until the ending.
And it's a wonder I don't. It's a wonder I don't feel that way too, because I didn't see them in order. I saw 2 and 3 way before I saw the original, and I kept hearing about the original. My aunt, who I watched a lot of horror movies with, she told me about it, and I was like, well, I gotta watch this, So based on what she was telling me, I was not expecting like what was in 2 and 3, so I wasn't disappointed in that respect. And in a way, maybe that was better that I saw 2 and 3, and also was told by my aunt, hey, don't expect this to be like 2 and 3 because it's going to be totally different than those 2.
Right, yeah. I think people talk about that original now all the time. But if it wasn't for that scene, I think that film would have just been forgotten. Would have just been another 80s slasher.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But is there anything anybody else wants to bring up? I'm not trying to rush anybody off, but I do know it's Sunday night, and I know a lot of people got to go to work in the morning and get up early and make that morning commute for those of you that don't get to work from home.
Well, it's 25 to 2 coming up, yeah.
Yeah, it's even later for Darren. It's not even night now; it's morning.
It's 10:30 a.m. here, so I'm good.
Oh yes,
Oh, God,
I forget about
forgetting.
that too, Jay.
Where are you, Jay?
Japan.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
daylight streaming through there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I forgot.
That's way
Those
cool.
lights.
It's strange though. I can't sometimes I'll forget. Bless Darren's heart. He's in here with me a lot of times or stays in the chat for a long time. And then I just all of a sudden it's like a flash bulb goes off in my brain. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gotta be up in the wee morning hours for Darren. And I just feel so bad.
I'll try and get on as much as I can.
Was it like, is Dana going to make it to lunchtime? We'll see what happens. She's still going to be going. How many chores am I going to get done?
We went on for a long time last night. I looked at the timestamp on that. It was over 5 hours last night.
I saw that and was shocked.
Yeah, Steve probably has not seen that, or he'd say, what in the world is wrong with you, Dana? Did you stay on there that long? Well, we were having a really good time. TJ and John were bringing up some really good conversations, and we just kept going for long after the movie was over.
I can see why. Go on, sorry, Jay.
I was just going to ask, where's old Curly Jaws?
I don't know. I've seen old Curly Jaws like here and there, like he'll pop in sometimes. I ain't seen him tonight, but he will pop in sometimes and just say hey, and then I don't see or hear from him at all. And I love to have him on too.
On how many gummies he's taken, really. Or how much pot he smoked. But I was going to say, I can see why Dana, like with these streams, that you kind of think of it as like a drug because they are, so much fun. I totally get that why you want to keep doing them, and in some ways, it's great to come on here and talk horror and just get away from your normal everyday life. Sometimes it just takes you away for a bit, and you don't have to worry about anything else for a while.
Yeah, and I've had, and I'm not going to go into it because I think you guys have all heard this troubles with my soon-to-be ex-employer. But this being able to separate myself from that for a few hours or whatever and just do this and concentrate on the streams and concentrate on planning a stream and interacting with all of you guys, that has been the best healing thing for me. And I'm not just saying that to like stroke anybody's ego or anything. It really is true. I just feel like I'm here with friends and nobody, I don't think anybody's making anybody else mad. I was kind of worried that I might have made Dirk mad because I haven't heard from him or seen him for a while. But I don't really think I have. But
yeah, I hope with he's lost something. Maybe he's like going through a bad spell or something, or might be an illness or something. Hopefully, it's nothing major.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean,
I'll have to try and reach out.
Red's in here now. He says, never heard of this film. Is it similar to Cobra minus the gay stuff? And I'm guessing he's talking about cruising.
It's like,
wow.
I was going to say, cruising has really even more gay stuff.
I think Cobra is more gay than cruising. I mean, what the fuck?
Is it?
Well, I mean, come on, Stallone. He did a porn, when he first started out. So There you go.
Yeah, he's the Italian stallion.
I've actually seen that, and it wasn't all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty much softcore stuff, from what I remember, or maybe I just saw the softcore version. It was a big renter back in the VHS days. Then people would bring it back pissed because it wasn't that good, and then it would like rent real hardcore stuff. I was the guy that had to go back in the back room to put the VH.
Oh man,
Well, the women didn't want to do it, so there's a middle-aged women working there, and I'm the young idiot kid. And they're like, "Here, you go put these back."
yeah, go reshelve the porn.
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, I was in high school. I'm like, yay, great.
I haven't been in too many porn areas of video stores, but like, I think I've told this story before, but I'll try to tell it real quickly. When Steve and I hadn't been dating very long, there was a time where I couldn't come to Louisville to visit him to go see Army of Darkness at the Baxter Theater, and I really wanted to, but I had to work an evening shift at the library where I was working then, and there was no way to get out of it because it was short notice that, hey, Army of Darkness is playing. So anyway, CK and Uncle Bill was with Jess or Jesco or however you guys would remember Jess. They all came to Louisville to get with Steve, and they were all going to go out to eat, and they come back to Steve's house, and there's footage of them filming back here in this room where I'm at doing the stream now, showing off Steve's movies and stuff. But they did go to Wild and Woolly. This is back when the Wild and Woolly video store was open in Louisville, and they evidently went back where the X-rated movies were, and there's a little snippet of video footage and maybe some pictures where somebody had picked up some gay porn, and they were sitting there giggling like little kids about it, but it was called Furry Fuckers, I think was and I'll never forget that. They were like, hey, look at this. And I think CK said something about, we found this for Uncle Bill.
I was going to say, now I have a question. We're talking furries, or is this something about actual hair?
No, I think this was just like actually really hairy guys. Not, I guess I should have made an explanation of that. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose there could be porn with the other definition of furries.
Well, I was gonna say, isn't that like furry? The current definition of furries would be, kind of post, porn stuff.
Yeah.
There's no physical media of that.
I'm going to be looking that up on IMDb as soon as this stream's over. I hope there's some kind of image of that film out there now.
See, now I'm thinking of this stuff, and I'm thinking of, like, I know Blockbuster Video is kind of back in the news because there's some new series.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss the video stores when they actually had the porn rooms, because those are the video stores I worked in, and they would have like the saloon doors to go to the back room, or sometimes there was like a cheap shower curtain. Texas, what did your store have?
Yeah, there was a lot of places like that. When I wound up working at certain record stores, that was by the time they started renting stuff. They at one of them we had some porn, but basically it wasn't a lot, and we just like had a notebook, like a spiral folder that had the cover art in it, and if somebody said, I want to watch an adult movie, we would just give them the book to look through, and then they'd say, okay, I want this one, and then we'd go get it. But I never worked in one where there was a whole bunch and you had to go through those doors or a curtain or anything like that. But there were a lot that were like that, definitely. Where I lived and
Right
here
about the
and in
system.
California. So didn't have to deal with that much at all, really.
It was so
Over
awkward.
here, they had kind of weird bearded curtains type thing, with beads on for some reason. You go through, but yeah, it was like we did have a lot of sex shops, and you
Is it
probably
like you're going to the fortune teller?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But considering how porn has come on from those days, you can get it on your phone now, easy accessible and all that. So it must have put a lot of people out of business because people were literally making millions back in the 80s through porn. But
I have
now it's just so easily accessible.
I have a funny library story. It was about when I was working for one of the branch libraries here in Louisville. When Darren said something about watching porn on your phone, it made me think of this thing this was very uncomfortable for me, guys. But it's funny now because I'm no longer in that situation. But I was working at one of the branch libraries, and I went over to help and I call him a gentleman because that's what I thought he was before I actually got into this conversation with him. But he wanted to know how to transfer some photos off of his phone to the computer. And I was thinking, oh, he's got family photos or something he's wanting to transfer. So I guess he didn't think of the implications of me accessing that DCIM folder on his phone. So I said, okay, we're going to plug your phone in to the computer. And then I started, and he was looking over my shoulder. I said, we're going to, access your phone here. And then we're going to open this DCIM folder. Oh my God, guys. I opened that up and there were all these like naked shots of women in various positions. I'll just say. And the guy just got really quiet behind me. He was chattering on. And when this stuff came up, he's like, oh, honey, you don't want to look at that. And he hurries up and I'm like, dude, did you not know that these were on your phone before you let me start? He had to know those things were there. There were millions of them.
I'm surprised he didn't plead innocence and say, "Hey, did these get there?"
No, he just said, honey, you don't want to look at those, and took his phone back.
Yeah, he said that wink, wink. Look at those.
But yeah, that was one of those. I did get an obscene phone call when I was working at the library back home in my small hometown. What the guy would do is he would call, and whoever picked up the phone, they say, like in my case, Hancock County Public Library, this is Dana, how can I help you? And, most people would say, well, I'm looking for this book, do you have this book? And I would look it up or whatever. This person started out saying, do you have any books by this author? And I honestly thought that they wanted to know, did we have any books by this author? So I look it up and I start saying, yeah, we've got this title and this title. I was reading off the titles. And then I started to notice that this person sounded like they were getting off on these, reading off these titles. And so I got really embarrassed and I just got flustered and just hung up the phone because it was just like, oh yeah, tell me another one. And it literally was like that. And you got the feeling you were hearing noises in the background, like the guy was pleasuring himself while I was reading off titles. And I just sat there in shock after I hung up the phone for a little bit. I know I just sat there frozen with my mouth open because I had never experienced any obscene phone calls, but definitely not at the library.
It was the breather.
I'm sorry for laughing, but this obscene phone calls almost seem quaint now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, with all the spam calls everybody gets, hell, I would love an obscene phone call every once in a while.
The
Jeez.
obscene phone call would be more fun now, wouldn't it? But
Say they
yeah,
have to make a cheek noise.
I have, when people want to hear funny stories, people think working at a library is boring. Hey, it ain't boring. I got all kinds of stories I can tell you.
Dana's all. Someone called me and asked me to look up who the author Just Jackin today. Justin Jackin.
Oh, and evidently I found out once I moved to Louisville and started working for the library system here in Louisville that they were talking about somebody was making obscene phone calls to the Louisville Free Public Library and the different branches doing the same exact thing. I was like, boy, this guy must get around. He's calling all the libraries.
I'm just thinking.
Did
of
anybody-
stealing bodies.
Did anybody phone you up and ask for like the author Michael Hunt? Mike
No,
Hunt?
I never got
That
that one. Never got that one. But yeah, other than, dealing with, I dealt with several disgruntled patrons at the library, from everything from the computer not working correctly for them. There was a lady that instead of asking us before she starts typing this dissertation or whatever the heck she was typing, she went to our PACs, our public the catalogs, and she didn't ask, are these hooked to printers? She just went over there and started typing, and then she said, how do I print? I said, ma'am, you can't print from those computers. Those are only catalog computers. You can only look up material on the. Oh, she got mad. If looks could kill, I would be dead right now. She's like, I sat here and I typed this whole thing out and now I can't print it. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
You should have told her, bitch, the Kinko's is down the block.
Right, exactly.
That's what I would have liked to have said, but I valued my job too much at the time. I knew I had to have that job. So,
do you get homeless people? Did you get homeless people in the library?
In Louisville, I did. I don't think we ever had any homeless people come into. We did have a guy come into Hancock County Public when I was there that was living under the Ohio River Bridge because he didn't have any. I guess technically he was homeless, but he was the only one.
The last time I went to the library, there was a homeless problem, and there was a homeless man looking at hentai on the computer. I was just like, okay, how are we doing what is going on here? This isn't the library, I remember.
Oh, we did have okay, this is gonna make you guys laugh too. When you mentioned hentai, it made me think of this other thing that happened. This happened in my small town library. I was working one Saturday with another lady, and we were the only two library workers in there, and we were just going around shelving books for the day. We had gotten stuff in out of the drop box, and we were just shelving things. So I was on the other side of the library, and the other lady I was working with was shelving paperbacks. Now, at this point in time, the shelves for the paperbacks, you could see through the shelves when you were shelving. And then we had two computers where one of the computers, the screen was facing that shelving unit. So when the lady was shelving paperbacks, evidently we had a young boy, come in, sat down at the computer, he signed in, he went over and he started using the computer. And I seen Phyllis, the lady I was working with, come around the corner from that paperback shelf. Her eyes were as big as saucers and her mouth was open. And she hurriedly come over to me and she said, Dana, she said, that boy over there, she said, he's masturbating over there looking at stuff on the computer. And I said, what? And she said, yes, that's what he's doing. What are we going to do? And right about that time, I guess he figured out that we knew what he was doing, and he just got up and just booked it out of the library. And we ended up telling our director about it on Monday. We were like, this is what went on. And she said, well, we'll keep an eye on him, because we all knew who the kid was. And he never came back in the library again after that. I'm like, well, that's what you get. You don't come in the library and do stuff like that.
You seem to
When
call us
I worked at
parents.
Borders, we had a whole bunch of crazy shit. We'd have homeless people, go into the bathroom and give themselves a bath in the sink,
Yep.
Basically. But there was one guy that got a huge oversized dictionary, just sat down in one of the chairs, and he was beating it, to the dictionary, and
Oh.
somebody just happened to walk by and go, "What the fuck?" And then he got escorted out, and stuff.
The
Mhm.
dictionary?
Yeah, a dictionary.
Not
I'm
like
not
a
sure,
magazine stuffed in the dictionary to read, but just the
No,
dictionary.
just doing,
Wow.
his business.
Vocabulary must have turned this guy on. Oh.
More syllables.
You all right?
Blissful's here now. She said, I'm so late. Hi, Dana. And then TJ said, you've arrived for triple X talk, Blissful. LOL. I almost got choked looking at that because it was so funny. Blissful, do you have anything to add to the X-rated talk that's going on here? Oh, man.
It's more like people interacting with media at the job talk, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the more appropriate way to put it. Yeah,
I'm
but
working on my corporate speak.
oh my goodness. So, guys, I'm probably gonna cut this thing off about 9 o'clock, which is about 5 minutes, just because I know, Darren's probably getting pretty tired about now. And I know it's still early for you, Jay. But it's shortly gonna be 9 o'clock here in Texas. Are you on Central Time?
Yes, I sure am.
Okay. So it's a little bit, it's not quite as late where you're at, but it's going to be late enough. So is there anything anybody else wanted to bring up or promote, or, anything like
Um,
that?
I think, like, because I really enjoy these, I think if you could get a few more people on, maybe do say something like Lucio Fulci sort of, go through every one of his films and what everyone, different opinions. Maybe
Like,
do a filmography of certain directors and stuff.
yeah,
I think,
like a
that
Fulci
would,
retrospective or
yeah,
something.
obviously miss his comedies and stuff like that, but
Right.
concentrate on their horror works and that, or thriller films and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool if we could get quite a few
The
people in.
Devil's Honey.
Yeah, yeah, that's an erotic film, to say the least. But yeah, or like an Argento or Toby Hooper or anyone like that.
Yeah, I
Just
did a Toby Hooper one. Like it was not when I was doing live streams. It was just when I was just doing videos and uploading them, I think. But I
right.
wouldn't be against doing another one.
I think if you could get 5 or 6 people in, it'd be kind of
Oh,
interesting.
that would be
With
awesome.
different views. Yeah.
TJ's gonna head on out. He's saying, "Have a good night, y'all." Heading over for a live watch stream with Dr. Wolfula. Well, you have fun, TJ. And Blissful's asking, has 71 been around? I haven't seen 71
No,
tonight.
not today.
I think she was in the watch along last night for a little bit. Oh, there she is. I'm here. Don't ever do that again. So I don't know. That must be something private between Blissful and 71. But yeah, Darren, I would love to like do that with like, you know, not only with these watch alongs, but just regular live streams. That's always why I tell people, I'm like, if you want to come on, just let me know. And I've even taken to just putting the link in the chat, and like whoever
Yeah.
wants to come in here can come in here. That way I don't, if I forget to send somebody the link because my brain's mush, that way they don't feel like, oh, Dana forgot me, so I guess, you know, I'm not invited. No, you're always invited. And I think I forgot to send Jay the link, so evidently he must have got it from.
I didn't realize you pasted it in the top of the chat before, when you initially post the scheduling.
Right. Okay.
Now I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gonna say, can you show video on this? Because I was gonna suggest maybe if you have a trailer reel, if YouTube doesn't flag those as copyright.
Yeah, the thing about, you know, people have not only asked me about that, Jay, but they've asked me if I could stream the movies.
Oh, I know that's impossible.
But the thing about trailers and stuff like that is, even if the audio, sometimes the audio will trip an
Okay.
algorithm, and you can get
Oh,
flagged
right.
for that. Now,
Okay.
what Steve's going to try is he's going to try streaming a movie through Twitch.
Well, that was going to be my suggestion because I belong to some channels where they stream stuff on Twitch all the time, and that doesn't seem to be much of an issue.
And I think I'm going to see how Steve's goes. And then if his goes without a hitch, then maybe I will try. I'm certainly going to look into it.
Do you have a Twitch channel?
I don't. Steve said I'd have to sign up for that. Which I'm.
Do you know if joining Twitch is free, or have you got to pay any money?
I'm hoping it's
just
free.
to be a regular viewer, like, yeah.
Oh, it's free. It's just like YouTube, except it's all streaming.
Right. I got the app on my TV, but I've never really never created an account or anything. But I'll definitely get onto that, because I would imagine that'd be great. It'd be great fun to actually watch a film like that.
Streaming, and it keeps your streams up for, I think it's like 2 weeks, and then they disappear. So it's not like you keep a log. It's all kind of just, in the moment. If you don't catch it within a couple of weeks, it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it is officially 9:01, and I'm going to try to get some rest. I'm still doing the job hunting thing. I'm getting close on one of the jobs, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket until they tell me I do have a job and that I start on this day. So I just need to get a little rest, and I know Darren's got to get some rest. Texas will probably have to get some rest. Jay is probably just getting his day started, kind of. But I guess, as I always say, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. But I want to thank Jay and Texas and Darren for being on here with me tonight. We've had a very good discussion. And we had a great watch along, even though there wasn't as many people in here as in the back of my mind I thought I was going to have. But, that just goes with the territory. Sometimes you have a lot of people, sometimes you don't. And it might be because I didn't start as late tonight, but I just thought on a Sunday it would be better to start a little bit earlier. But I want to thank you guys for all being on here with me. You guys have an open invitation to come on anytime, as does anybody that's in the chat, unless you can prove me wrong that you're nice people. Then you will be able to come on at any time. 71 says, sorry, Dana, it was a rough go tonight, and some channels had to protect some people. Ooh, that does not sound fun. But that's okay that you were late coming in here. I'm just sorry that I've kind of run out of steam, and now I've got to get off here. But I'm sure I'll be doing some things in the coming weeks, or coming week rather. I think I'm going to do another 80s nostalgia explosion, where it's not just horror movies. It's a mix and match of 80s movies, mostly 80s comedies. For anybody that was in here for the last 80s nostalgia explosion that I did. And I figured out I had so many movies that I'm going to have to break this up into at least 2 parts. So with all that being said, and I think I just lost Texas now. So I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. Thank you guys for being here. And I will see everybody on the flip side. So everybody have a good night and a good morning.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Jay.